The cargo ship moved through space like a fat fish swimming through dark water. Its name was the Quiet Prophet, and Captain Vrix liked that name very much. Quiet meant safe. Quiet meant boring. In 30 years of flying merchant routes, Vrix had learned that boring was good for business and even better for staying alive. Vrix had 4 arms, which he used now to check different screens on his control panel. His species, the Zilarians, were known for being careful. Some called them cowards. Vrix called it smart planning. He hauled cargo from one planet to another, avoided trouble, and went home to his family every cycle. That was a good life. His first mate, Kelth, sat at the navigation station. Kelth was an insectoid with long, thin limbs and compound eyes that could see in many directions at once. Kelth had worked with Vrix for 8 years and shared his captain's love of peaceful, profitable trips. The crew was small. Just 6 beings to run the whole ship. They carried basic cargo, nothing valuable enough to attract pirates. They traveled the safe routes, the ones where the Galactic Patrol actually showed up when called. Vrix had a system, and his system worked. Then there was the human. Jake Morris sat in the small passenger cabin, reading something on his data pad. He was the only passenger on this trip, heading back to his home planet after working on a mining station for 6 months. The mining company had paid for his transport, and Vrix had agreed because the money was good and humans paid on time, but Vrix had never carried a human before. None of his crew had ever even met one. They had all heard stories, of course. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about Terrans. Earth was a Class 1-2. Death World. Vrix didn't know much about planet classifications, but he knew that most civilized species came from Class 2 or Class 3 worlds. Kelth's home planet was a Class 4, which was considered slightly dangerous because of the storms. Class 12 was almost unheard of. The stories said that Earth had predators that could eat a person whole, that the weather could kill you in minutes, that the plants were poisonous and the oceans were full of monsters. The story said humans evolved to survive all of that, which meant they were built differently than other species. Looking at Jake Morris, Vrix could believe it. The human was not particularly tall, maybe average height for his species. But he was dense. When Jake had first come aboard and shaken Vrix's hand, the captain had felt the weight of that grip. Not painful, but strong. Very strong. Jake moved wrong too. Too fast. Too sudden. He would reach for something and his hand would snap out like a striking creature. Then he would slow down like he remembered he was around fragile beings. The crew had learned to watch for him in corridors because he walked heavy. His footsteps thudded against the deck plating louder than anyone else's, but Jake seemed nice enough. He smiled a lot, which showed his flat teeth. He said please and thank you. He offered to help in the engine room and turned out to be a good mechanic. He even learned a few words in Zilarian, though his mouth couldn't quite make the clicking sounds right. Still, the crew was nervous around him. Vrix had caught them watching Jake when they thought no one noticed. The way a small animal watches a sleeping predator, the human spent most of his time reading or exercising. The exercise was disturbing. Jake would go to the cargo bay and do something he called working out. He would lift heavy containers over and over. He would hang from pipes and pull his whole body weight up and down. He would run in place for an hour without stopping. When Caesar, the ship's medic, had scanned him out of curiosity, the results had been strange. Jake had a reinforced skeletal structure, redundant organs, and an immune system that seemed designed to fight off everything. His blood carried oxygen so efficiently that Caesar couldn't understand how he didn't get toxicity. His healing factor was 3 times faster than a normal humanoid. Caesar had asked Jake if he was a soldier. Jake had laughed and said no, he was just a mechanic. This was normal for humans. Caesar had not found that comforting. Now it was day 12 of a 15-day voyage, and everything had gone smoothly. They were passing through the outer spiral, a region of space that was mostly empty. A few mining operations, some gas harvesting stations, but not much else. Traffic was light. Vrix liked light traffic. He was checking the fuel consumption rates when Kelth made a clicking sound of alarm. "Captain," Kelth said, his voice tight. "We have company." Vrix looked at the sensor display and felt his stomach drop. 3 ships had just appeared on their scanners. No, not appeared. They had been running silent, and now they had powered up their systems. They had been waiting. Pirates.vrix recognized the signatures. Krinth vessels. The Krinth were a reptilian species known for raiding merchant ships in the outer regions. They were not the worst pirates in the galaxy, but they were efficient and mean. Power signature spike, Kelth reported. They're charging weapons. Hail them, Rick said, trying to keep his voice calm. Tell them we're a registered merchant vessel with minimal cargo. Tell them we'll cooperate. Before Kelth could respond, the ship shuddered. Every screen flickered and went dark for 3 seconds. When they came back on, half the systems were flashing red. Electromagnetic pulse, Kelth said. Engines are offline. Communications are down. Weapons are... We don't have weapons. I know we don't have weapons, Vrick snapped. Then he took a breath. Panic wouldn't help? He had been through this before. Twice, actually. Both times he had survived by being smart. Lock down the cargo bay. Get everyone to the common room. We're going to cooperate fully. The crew assembled quickly. There were 6 of them plus Jake. The human had come from his cabin when the pulse hit, and now he stood with the others looking confused. What's happening? Jake asked. Pirates, Vrix explained, trying to sound calm. Krinth raiders. They've disabled our ship. They're going to board us, take what they want, and hopefully leave us alive. Hopefully. Jake's voice was very quiet. The Krinth usually don't kill if you don't resist, Vrix said. We give them the cargo, maybe some personal items. They leave. We file an insurance claim. Everyone lives. Jake nodded slowly. His face had changed somehow. The friendly expression was gone. His eyes looked different, colder. Do you have weapons on this ship? Jake asked. Vrix laughed, though it came out nervous. No, merchant ships don't carry weapons. It attracts attention from inspectors and pirates both. Besides, they have 30 armed raiders. Fighting would be suicide. How many are coming aboard? Usually a boarding party of 10 to 15. They'll take control of the ship, search everything, load their cargo. Takes about an hour. Jake looked around the room, his eyes moving over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, like he was memorizing everything. Where's the maintenance locker? He asked. Jake, listen to me, Rick said carefully. I know humans have a reputation. I know your species is considered dangerous. But please do not try to fight them. We cannot win. The best chance we have is to cooperate. The human looked at Vrix for a long moment. Then he smiled, but it wasn't the friendly smile from before. This smile showed more teeth. Captain, I really appreciate you giving me a ride, Jake said. You've been kind to me. Your crew has been welcoming. So I'm going to do you a favor now. What favor? Vrix asked, though part of him didn't want to know. I'm going to make sure these pirates regret choosing your ship. Kelth made a chittering sound of distress. You can't fight 30 Krinth warriors with your bare hands. I know, Jake said. That's why I asked about the maintenance locker. I'm going to need tools. Seizes, the medic stepped forward. She was a small, timid creature who usually avoided conflict. But now she spoke up, her voice shaking. Human Jake, the Krinth have armor. They have plasma rifles. They have training. You'll be killed. Jake patted her shoulder gently. Too gently, Vrix noticed. Like he was holding back his strength even now. Seasons on my planet, people do something called extreme sports. For fun, we climb mountains in freezing weather. We dive into underwater caves where one wrong turn means drowning in the dark. We run marathons through deserts. Last year, I went skydiving, which means jumping out of an aircraft at 10,000 feet with nothing but a fabric parachute. The crew stared at him. Pain is recreational for humans, Jake continued. We do dangerous things because it makes us feel alive. These pirates just gave me a chance to do something I'm actually good at. What are you good at? Vrix asked, though again, part of him didn't want to know. Jake's smile got wider. Problem solving. And I'm looking at this situation and I see a problem that needs solving. The ship's computer announced an incoming docking request. The pirates were attaching their boarding craft to the airlock. Jake turned and walked toward the maintenance locker. Vrix tried to stop him, but the human moved fast. By the time Vrix caught up, Jake had already opened the locker and was pulling out equipment, a plasma torch, 3 fire suppression canisters, a cargo strap, cleaning solvent, cooking oil from the galley. "Jake, please," Vrix said. "Don't do this. Just hide. Let us handle it." The human looked at him with those cold eyes. "Captain, they're planning to hurt you. They're planning to steal from you. They came here thinking you were helpless. I'm going to teach them that assumptions can be fatal." He turned to Caesars. "Do you have any stimulants? Something for cardiac emergencies?" Caesars nodded slowly and retrieved an injector from her medical kit. It was... The first pirate to step through the airlock was named Drask. He was young for a Krinth raider, only 20 cycles old, and this was his 4th boarding operation. The previous 3 had gone smoothly. Merchants always surrendered. It was just business. He stepped into the corridor and immediately his foot went out from under him. He crashed down hard, his rifle clattering across the floor. Behind him, the other pirates laughed. Drask's face burned with embarrassment as he tried to stand up. The floor was slick with something. Oil, maybe? "Quiet!" snapped Chakros, the boarding party leader. He was a veteran, with scars across his scaled face and a missing eye replaced with a cybernetic implant. "Stay alert. Something's wrong here." The corridor was dark. Emergency lighting gave everything a red tint. The air smelled strange, chemical, almost like fuel. Chakros activated his helmet scanner. It showed heat signatures throughout the ship, but they were clustered in one area. The cargo bay, smart, the crew had locked themselves in. That would make this easier. "Vec, Tarnus, secure the bridge. Drask, stop lying around and get up. The rest of you with me? We find the crew, we secure them, we take what we want. Standard operation." They moved forward carefully. Drask had finally gotten to his feet, though he was still slipping on the oily floor. The corridor curved ahead, leading deeper into the ship. That's when Chakros smelled it. Not oil, something else. Something that made his survival instincts scream. He started to shout a warning just as the walls exploded into flame. The industrial solvent Jake had spread on the corridor walls was highly flammable. When the plasma torch ignited it, the fire rushed through the passageway like a living thing. The Krinth pirates screamed and scattered, their armor protecting them from the worst of it. But the heat and smoke were blinding. In the chaos, Jake moved. He had been waiting in a maintenance shaft above the corridor. Now he dropped down behind 3 pirates who had been separated from the main group. They were coughing, trying to see through the smoke. Jake hit the first one with the cargo strap. It was rated for 5 tons, made of reinforced synthetic fiber. He swung it like a whip, and it wrapped around the pirate's neck. Jake pulled hard, and the Krinth went down, gasping for air. The second pirate spun around, trying to bring his rifle up. Jake was already moving. He grabbed the weapon's barrel with one hand and pushed it aside. With his other hand, he drove his fist into the pirate's throat, right where the armor plates met. The Krinth made a choking sound and collapsed. The third pirate was smarter. He backed away, keeping his rifle trained on Jake, but his foot hit the oil slick. He went down hard, and his head bounced off the deck plating with a crack that echoed through the corridor. Jake looked down at the 3 unconscious pirates. His heart was pounding. The adrenaline booster made everything feel sharp and fast. He could hear the other pirates shouting somewhere in the smoke. Time to move. He grabbed one of the plasma rifles and checked it. Krinth weapons were designed for their larger hands, but Jake could make it work. He also took 3 grenades from one pirate's belt. He wasn't sure what kind they were, but grenades were grenades from the cargo bay. Captain Vrix watched the security feeds with horror. Kelth stood next to him, both of them staring at the screen. "He just took down 3 of them," Kelth whispered. "In less than 30 seconds. "Look at how he moves," Vrix said. His voice was shaking. "He's not rushing. He's not panicking. He's hunting them." On the screen, Jake was moving through the smoke-filled corridor. He had the plasma rifle, but he wasn't using it yet. Instead, he was setting up something near a junction point. It looked like he was dismantling a maintenance drone. "What is he doing?" Caesar asked. She had come to watch too, unable to look away. They got their answer a moment later. Jake activated the drone and sent it flying down the corridor toward where the main group of pirates was regrouping. He had attached a spinning blade assembly to it, the kind used for cutting through damaged hull plating. The drone flew at head height, its blade spinning at maximum speed. The pirates heard it coming and opened fire, but the drone was small and fast. It zipped past them, and two Krinth went down screaming, their helmets split open. "Sweet stars," Kelth breathed. "He's insane." "No," Rick said quietly. "He's tactical. Look at what he's doing. He's not trying to kill them all. He's trying to scare them." And it was working. The pirates were panicking now. They had come here expecting frightened merchants. Instead, they had walked into a nightmare. Their boarding party was down to 8 effective fighters, and they had no idea where the attacks were coming from. Shakros was trying to hold his team together. "Back to the airlock." "We're pulling out." But Jake had anticipated that. When the pirates tried to retreat to the airlock, they found it blocked. Jake had collapsed part of the corridor using the fire suppression system. He had triggered an emergency seal, and a heavy blast door had dropped down, cutting off their escape route. "It's a trap," Shakros said. He activated his communicator. "Captain Vesa, we have a situation. We're taking heavy casualties. Need immediate backup." On the pirate ship, Captain Vesa listened to the report with growing concern. Her boarding party was the best she had. If they were struggling, something was very wrong. "What are you facing? How many defenders?" she asked. "We don't know," Shakros said. His voice was strained. "Multiple attacks from different locations, traps, improvised weapons. It's like fighting a ghost." Vesa pulled up the video feeds from her boarding party's helmet cameras. What she saw made her blood run cold. A human. There was a human on that ship. She had heard stories about Terrans. Every pirate captain had. Earth was on the restricted list for a reason. Humans were Deathworlders. They were the species that the Galactic Council warned about. They were the ones who scared other species just by existing. Vesa pulled up her database and searched for Earth's classification. Class 12 Deathworld. The file included warnings. Humans had evolved to be persistence hunters. They could track prey for days without stopping. They could survive injuries that would kill most species. Their pain tolerance was extremely high. Their aggression, when triggered, was legendary. The file also included recommended actions when encountering a hostile human. Maintain distance. Use overwhelming force. Do not engage in close combat. Her boarding party had done the exact opposite. They had walked into an enclosed space with a human who had decided to fight. It was the worst possible scenario. "All teams, retreat immediately," Vesa ordered. "Abandon the cargo. Get out of there now." But retreating was easier said than done. Jake had turned the ship into a maze. He knew every corridor, every access panel, every system. The pirates were in his territory now. Shakros led his remaining team through what he thought was a clear passage. They moved quickly, weapons ready. Then Shakros felt something wrong. His feet felt heavy. Too heavy. Jake had accessed the ship's gravity plating system. He had increased the gravity in this corridor to 3 times normal. The Krinth, who were already heavily armored, suddenly found themselves struggling to move. Each step was exhausting. For Jake, who had grown up in Earth's strong gravity, it was uncomfortable but manageable. He appeared at the end of the corridor. Moving through the heavy gravity like it was barely there, the pirates tried to raise their weapons, but they were too slow. Jake shot the lights out with his stolen rifle, plunging the corridor into darkness. Then he activated his plasma torch, and in the flickering blue light he went to work. The fight lasted less than a minute. When it was over, 4 more pirates were down. Shakros had a broken arm and several cracked ribs. He was lying on the floor, gasping for breath in the heavy gravity. Watching the human walk away, Jake moved to the ship's communication panel and opened a channel. His voice echoed through both the merchant ship and the pirate vessel. "Attention, pirate crew. This is Jake Morris. I'm the only human on this ship, and I'm also the only one fighting you. You came here planning to hurt people I care about. That was a mistake." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was almost friendly. "I want you to understand something. I'm not a soldier. I'm not special forces. I'm a mechanic. On my world, I'm completely average. There are billions of humans just like me. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We learned to adapt. We learned to survive. We learned to fight." Through the communication channel, they could hear him moving, walking through the ship. "I've turned your boarding party into casualties using maintenance equipment and cooking supplies. Imagine what an actual human soldier could do. Imagine what a squad of them could do. Now imagine there are 10 billion of us." The silence that followed was heavy. "You're going to leave now," Jake continued. "I'm going to let your wounded friends go back to your ship. You're going to take them and leave this sector. And you're going to spread a message for me." "What message?" Vesa asked, her voice tight. "Check the passenger manifest before boarding. If there's a human on the ship, pick a different target. Because the next crew you meet might not be as nice as me. The next human might actually try to kill you all instead of just teaching you a lesson." Jake deactivated the heavy gravity. He opened the blast door, blocking the airlock. Slowly, the surviving pirates limped back to their ship, carrying their wounded. Before Chakros left, Jake stopped him. The recording spread through the networks like wildfire. SHA Ross had uploaded his warning video to the pirate communication channels as Jake had requested, but he had also included the helmet camera footage from the boarding operation. Within 6 hours, every pirate crew within 3 sectors had seen it. The video showed everything: the initial entry into the dark corridor, the fire exploding across the walls, pirates going down one by one to an enemy they could barely see. And then, in the flickering light of the plasma torch, there was a clear shot of Jake Morris's face. Calm, focused, smiling, one pirate captain, a grizzled veteran named Kor, watched the video 3 times. Then he pulled up the Galactic Council's restricted species database and read everything about humans. When he was done, he called a meeting with his crew. "New rule," he announced. "Before we board any ship, we check the crew manifest. If there's even one human listed, we move on. I don't care if the ship is carrying pure platinum." "We don't touch it," his first mate objected. "Captain, it's just one species." "How dangerous can they really be?" Kor played the video again. He froze it on Jake's face. "Look at his eyes," Kor said. "That's not rage, that's not fear, that's someone doing a job. Like he's fixing an engine or preparing dinner. Humans think violence is a normal solution to problems. They're wired wrong." The first mate looked at the frozen image and said nothing. "Their planet tried to kill them every day," Kor continued. "So they got tougher, they got meaner, they got smarter. And now they're out here, in space, among species that evolved on nice, safe worlds. We're prey animals to them, and most of us don't even realize it." The message spread beyond just pirate crews. Trade networks picked up the story. News services ran segments about it. Within 2 weeks, Jake Morris had become famous, though he didn't know it yet. He was still on the Quiet Prophet, helping repair the damage and making the slow journey to Earth. Captain Vrix received a communication from the Merchant Guild. They wanted a full report on the incident. Vrix provided everything, including the security footage. The Guild's response came back within a day. "We're reducing your insurance premiums by 40%, the message read. "Any ship with a verified human crew member now qualifies for our lowest risk category. Please inform your passenger that. Several shipping companies have inquired about offering him employment." Vrix showed the message to Jake, who just laughed. "I'm not looking for a new job," Jake said. "I like fixing machines, not fighting pirates." "You're very good at both," Kelth observed. They were sitting in the ship's common room, sharing a meal. The repairs were almost complete. Another 3 days and they would reach Earth. The crew had relaxed around Jake somewhat, though they still watched him with careful respect. "Can I ask you something?" Caesar said quietly. On your planet, is there really that much danger? Jake thought about it while he ate. The crew had learned to watch him eat too. The way he could bite through things that would break their teeth. The way he could digest foods that would make them sick. There's a lot of life on Earth, Jake said. Some of it is dangerous. We have predators, yeah. Big ones, but we also have medicine and technology. Most people live their whole lives without seeing anything truly dangerous. But you know how to fight? Kel said. Most humans know the basics. We learn it in school. Self-defense, situational awareness, how to handle emergencies. It's just part of growing up. That seems like a violent way to raise children, Caesar said. Jake shook his head. It's practical. The universe can be dangerous. Better to know how to handle yourself and never need it than need it and not know how. He looked around at the crew. Besides, humans aren't naturally violent. We don't go looking for fights. We just don't back down from them either. There's a difference. Vrix wanted to believe that, but he had seen the security footage. He had watched Jake systematically dismantle a pirate boarding party like he was solving a puzzle. That hadn't looked like someone defending themselves. That had looked like someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Later that night, Vrix was on the bridge when an incoming message arrived. It was from Captain Vesa, the pirate who had attacked them. Vrix almost deleted it, but curiosity made him open it. Captain Vrix, the message began. I'm sending this to apologize. My crew made a mistake. We should have checked your passenger manifest more carefully. We've compensated 3 other merchant ships this week after seeing a human on their crew list and withdrawing. I wanted you to know that the word is spreading. Ships with human crew members are becoming no-go targets. Your friend has probably saved hundreds of lives without knowing it. The message included a file attachment. Vrix opened it and found a compilation of reports from across the sector. In just 2 weeks, piracy rates had dropped significantly on any routes where humans were known to travel. Ships were advertising their human crew members. Some captains were even requesting humans specifically for the protection they provided. Vrix forwarded the message to Jake without comment. Jake read it and frowned. I didn't mean to start anything. I just wanted to protect the ship. You did more than that, Vrix said. You changed how pirates think about their targets. You made them afraid. Fear isn't respect, though, Jake said quietly. I don't want other species to be afraid of humans. Too late, Kel said from the navigation station. You should see the discussion boards. Everyone's talking about Terrans now. Half the galaxy is terrified. The other half is fascinated. Jake sighed and went back to his cabin. But the galaxy wasn't done talking about him. On a station called Meridian Point, a young Zilarian named Nix was planning his first merchant voyage. He had saved for years to buy his own small cargo ship. Now he was hiring crew. Dozens of beings applied. But Nix was looking for something specific. When he saw an application from a human named Beth Collins, he hired her immediately. Beth was a navigator with 10 years of experience. She had no idea why Nix seemed so excited to hire her. She also had no idea about Jake Morris or the incident on the Quiet Prophet. She just needed a job. Nix's friends thought he was crazy for hiring a human. They had all heard the stories. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, death-worlders who saw violence as a normal solution. But Nix had also read the reports. Ships with humans had lower piracy rates. Insurance was cheaper. And maybe, just maybe, he wanted the security that came with having a Terran on his crew. Beth started work 3 weeks after Jake's incident. She was professional, competent, and friendly. She made the crew nervous at first because of her density and strength, but she learned to move carefully around them. She was patient with their questions about Earth and humans. Then, on their 3rd voyage, they encountered pirates. The pirate ship approached and sent the standard demand to surrender. Nix was preparing to comply when the pirates suddenly broke off and fled. No explanation. Just gone, confused, Nix checked the communication logs. The pirates had run a scan on his ship. They had detected Beth's biosignature, human, and they had decided the cargo wasn't worth the risk. Beth found out about it later and laughed. That's ridiculous. I'm a navigator. I don't even know how to fight. But the pirates didn't know that. All they knew was the stories, the videos, the warnings, and they weren't willing to take the chance. Back on the Quiet Prophet, Jake was helping Kelth recalibrate the navigation system when Vrix called him to the bridge. "We're receiving a live feed," Vrix said, "from the Galactic News Network. You need to see this." The screen showed a news anchor, a sophisticated-looking planarian with perfect diction. Behind her was a graphic showing Jake's face and the title, "The Human Factor: How One Terran Changed Piracy Forever." Jake watched in horror as the news program detailed the entire incident. They showed parts of the security footage. They interviewed shipping company executives who talked about insurance rate changes. They even had a xenopsychologist explaining why humans were so effective at combat. "Terrans evolved as persistence hunters," the psychologist explained. "They would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. This same mentality applies to problem solving. They don't give up, they adapt, and they have an unusually high tolerance for pain and injury. When threatened, a human's body floods with adrenaline, temporarily enhancing their already impressive physical capabilities. In an enclosed space like a ship, fighting a human is statistically very dangerous." The program went on for 20 minutes. By the end, Jake's face was known across 3 sectors. "I'm so sorry," Jake said to Vrix. "I never meant for any of this." Vrix surprised him by laughing. "Are you kidding? My ship is now one of the most famous merchant vessels in the sector. I've had 5 job offers from major shipping companies. Kelth has been approached by news services wanting interviews. Even Caesars has received interest from medical research facilities wanting to learn more about human physiology. But people are scared," Jake said. "They think humans are monsters." "Some do," Vrix admitted. "But others are curious, impressed. Your species is getting attention, yes, but it's not all negative." He pulled up a message board on his screen. "Look at this. It's a discussion forum for merchant crews. Half the posts are about your fight with the pirates, but the other half are from crew members who have worked with humans. They're sharing stories about how helpful you are." 3 months after the incident on the Quiet Prophet, the shipping industry had changed in ways no one had predicted. Insurance companies were the first to adapt. They created a new risk category specifically for ships with human crew members. The premiums were 60% lower than standard merchant vessels. Some companies went further, offering bonuses to captains who hired Terrans. The logic was simple. In 3 months, not a single ship with a human crew member had been successfully raided by pirates. 12 attempts had been made. All 12 had failed. Some pirates had fled when they detected human biosignatures. Others had tried to board anyway and regretted it. The most notable incident involved a ship called the Silver Dawn, which carried 2 human mechanics named Danny Price and Katie Lopez, when pirates tried to board the Silver Dawn. Danny and Katie had worked together to defend the ship. They didn't have Jake's improvisational genius, but they had something just as effective: teamwork and human stubbornness. The pirates had retreated after Katie locked them in a cargo bay and flooded it with coolant gas, dropping the temperature to freezing. Danny had then sealed all the exits and offered them a choice: surrender or freeze. They surrendered. The video of Katie and Danny standing calmly while pirates begged to be let out of the frozen cargo bay became almost as famous as Jake's footage. "We didn't hurt them," Katie explained in an interview. "We just made them very uncomfortable. Humans handle cold better than most species. We evolved in ice ages." The interviewer, a nervous-looking Zilarian journalist, had asked the obvious question: "Why do humans seem so good at combat?" Danny had shrugged. "We're not really. We just don't panic as easily. Something about our brain chemistry. When things go wrong, we get focused instead of scared. It's probably a survival trait from our evolution." But the galaxy heard something different. They heard that humans stayed calm in danger, that they worked together efficiently under pressure, that they were naturally tactical. Within 6 months, shipping companies were competing to hire humans. Job offers flooded into Earth's employment networks. Wages for human spacers tripled. Some humans took the jobs. Many didn't. Earth's population was 40 billion, and only a tiny fraction had any interest in space travel, but enough humans went to space that they became a common sight on merchant vessels. And wherever humans went, piracy dropped. The pirates weren't giving up entirely. They were adapting too. A council of pirate captains met on a neutral station to discuss the human problem. 30 captains attended, representing the major raiding clans across 5 sectors. Captain Vessa was there. She had lost credibility after the Quiet Prophet incident, but she had also gained something valuable: first-hand experience with human combat abilities. The solution is simple, one captain argued. He was a massive Corellian named Brex. We use overwhelming force. 30 raiders couldn't handle one human. Fine, we send 60. 80, however many it takes. And lose how many crew members? Another captain asked. Have you seen the casualty reports? Every pirate who engages with humans comes away damaged. Even when we win, we lose too many fighters. Then we don't board, a third captain suggested. We threaten to destroy the ship if they don't surrender. Make it clear that having a human on board means death for everyone, not just us. Vessa spoke up. That won't work. Humans don't respond well to threats. If you threaten their crew, they'll fight harder. It's in their psychology. They're protective of their groups. So what do? Brex demanded. Just avoid any ship with a human? That's ridiculous. Soon every ship will have one. Then we adapt our tactics, Vessa said calmly. We check manifests first. Ships with humans we leave alone unless the cargo is extremely valuable. Ships without humans we target as usual. And we spread information. We learn about human psychology, human tactics, human weaknesses. Do they have weaknesses? Someone asked. Vessa pulled up a file on her datapad. According to Galactic Council medical records, yes. Humans need specific nutrients. They're vulnerable to certain toxins. They have a strong sense of honor that can be exploited. And most importantly, they're individuals. Not every human is a trained fighter. Some are just ordinary crew members who will surrender if the odds are bad enough. The council debated for hours. Eventually, they reached a consensus. Pirates would avoid human-crewed ships unless absolutely necessary. When engagement was unavoidable, they would use long-range tactics, avoid close combat, and retreat quickly if resistance was stronger than expected. It was a compromise, but it was also an acknowledgement. Humans had changed the math of piracy. One species from one planet had shifted the balance of power in multiple sectors. On Earth, Jake Morris had finally made it home. He lived in a small town on the coast, a place where ocean met forest. He had a simple house, a job at a local repair shop, and a life he was happy with. He had no interest in fame or adventure, but fame had found him anyway. Journalists called constantly. Shipping companies sent job offers weekly. The Earth government wanted him to speak at diplomatic functions. He declined everything. I just want my normal life back, he told his friend Alan, who ran the repair shop where Jake worked. Alan laughed. You fought off space pirates with a plasma torch and cooking oil? Normal might be hard to find now. It was stupid, Jake said. I could have been killed. I should have just hidden like the captain wanted. But you didn't, Alan pointed out. You saw people you cared about in danger and you acted. That's not stupid. That's human. Jake worked on an engine, his hands steady and precise. Everyone's treating me like I'm special, like I'm some kind of hero. But I'm not. I'm just a guy who got lucky. You keep saying that, Alan said. But have you watched the videos? You weren't lucky. You were smart, strategic. You used your environment. You thought 3 steps ahead? That's skill, not luck. Jake didn't respond. He knew what he had done. He remembered the fear, the adrenaline, the moment-by-moment decisions. He remembered being terrified that he would fail, that the pirates would get past him, that the crew would be hurt, but he also remembered the cold focus that had come over him, the way his mind had sorted through options and found solutions, the way his body had moved without hesitation. Maybe Alan was right. Maybe it wasn't luck. But Jake still didn't want to be famous for violence. Across the galaxy, other humans were facing similar situations. Katie Lopez had been offered a position as head of security for a major shipping corporation. She had accepted, but only on the condition that her job would focus on prevention and de-escalation, not combat. She spent her days training crews in security protocols and emergency procedures. Danny Price had gone back to engineering work, but found himself giving lectures to mixed species crews about human psychology and capabilities. He tried to explain that humans weren't naturally aggressive, just naturally stubborn. "We don't like to lose," he told one class. "If you give us a problem, we'll keep working on it until it's solved." That's not about violence. It's about persistence. We apply that same persistence to everything. Engineering, art, relationships, conflict. We just don't quit. A Zilarian in the class raised one of his 4 hands. "But doesn't that make you dangerous? If you never give up, how do we negotiate with you?" Danny thought about it. "You be honest with us. Humans value honesty. If you try to trick us or threaten us, we get defensive. But if you approach us with respect and genuine intent, we'll work with you. We're actually very cooperative. We just need to trust you first." The conversation was happening all over human-occupied space. Other species were learning about Terrans not through fear, but through interaction. And they were discovering that humans were more complex than the pirate video suggested. Yes, humans could be dangerous, but they could also be kind, creative, loyal, funny. They loved music and art. They formed deep friendships. They cried at sad stories and laughed at stupid jokes. They were people, not monsters, but the reputation remained. When pirates evaluated targets, they checked for humans. When merchants hired crews, they sought out humans. When governments negotiated trade agreements, they considered Earth's growing influence. Jake Morris had started something he couldn't control. His single act of defense had rippled outward, changing policies and attitudes across multiple sectors. 6 months after the incident, Jake received a message from Captain Vrix. The Quiet Prophet had been upgraded with better engines and shields, paid for by the increased profits from their suddenly famous status. Vrix had been interviewed by dozens of news services. He had used the attention to build his business into something much larger. "I owe you everything," Vrix's message read. "My family is secure. My crew is happy. My company is thriving. And I learned something important. Humans aren't scary because you're violent. You're scary because you're loyal. You protected us because we showed you kindness. That says more about your species than any fight ever could." Jake saved the message but didn't respond. He was still processing everything that had happened. That night, he went for a walk on the beach. The ocean was calm, the stars bright overhead. Somewhere up there, merchant ships were traveling safely because pirates were afraid. Crews were getting home to their families. Lives were being saved, all because one mechanic had decided to fight instead of hide. 2 years after Jake Morris defended the Quiet Prophet, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. Piracy still existed, but it had evolved. Pirates now operated with a careful calculation that included human presence as a major risk factor. The Pirate Information Network, an encrypted database shared among raiding clans, maintained detailed records on every known human spacer. Their locations, their routes, their capabilities. Some humans were marked as non-combatants, crew members who had shown no inclination toward violence. Others were marked with red warnings, like Katie Lopez and Danny Price, who had proven they would fight if necessary. And at the top of the list, in a category all by himself, was Jake Morris, marked with the highest threat rating. The irony was that Jake had never gone back to space. He was still living in his coastal town, still fixing engines at Alan's repair shop. He had refused every job offer, every interview request, every attempt to pull him back into the spotlight, but the story lived on without him. In a spaceport bar on the edge of civilized space, an old pirate named Kor was telling the story to a group of young raiders. They had heard it before, everyone had, but they wanted to hear it from someone who had been there. "I was running parallel to the sector when it happened," Kor said, nursing a drink. "Heard the emergency broadcast from Vessa's crew. Terran on board, they said. Heavy casualties. We all changed course immediately. No cargo is worth fighting a death worlder in close quarters. One of the young pirates, a cocky crinth named Vec, scoffed. It was just one human. With proper tactics, we could take one. Kor looked at him with cold eyes. You think so? Let me show you something. He pulled up the original video on his datapad. The footage from Chakras's helmet camera. The young pirates watched as the corridor exploded into flame. They watched pirates go down one after another. They watched Jake Morris move through smoke and fire like a ghost. That human wasn't trained, Kor said. He was a civilian mechanic. And he turned a merchant ship into a death trap in less than 30 minutes. Now imagine a human who actually is trained. A soldier. A professional. The young pirates were quiet now. Humans are classified as a restricted species for a reason, Kor continued. The Galactic Council knows what they are. Apex predators from a nightmare world. They're out here now, scattered across hundreds of ships. And every single one of them is a potential Jake Morris. Vec wasn't convinced. So we avoid them, fine, but what if we have to fight? What if the cargo is too valuable to pass up? Kor finished his drink. Then you make sure you have overwhelming force, long-range weapons, and an escape route. And even then you might lose. Because humans don't surrender easily. They don't give up. They'll fight until they physically can't anymore. That's what it means to be from a death world. He stood up to leave, then paused. One more thing. If you do have to fight a human, don't try to intimidate them. Don't make threats. Humans respond to threats with aggression. They have something they call an adrenaline response. When they're threatened, their body floods with chemicals that make them stronger, faster, and immune to pain. It's a biological weapon system built into their DNA. The young pirates exchanged glances. Vec looked less cocky now. Just avoid them, Kor said. Trust me. I've been raiding for 30 years. I know a losing battle when I see one. He left the bar, and the young pirate sat in silence, watching the video loop over and over. Meanwhile, on a merchant vessel called the Golden Horizon, the crew was celebrating. They had just completed a run through one of the most dangerous sectors in known space, without a single pirate encounter. The captain, a planarian named Tess, raised a glass to her human crew member, a navigator named Chris Baker. To Chris, Tess said. The best pirate deterrent in the galaxy. Chris laughed and shook his head. I didn't do anything. We just got lucky. Lucky nothing, said the first mate, a Zalarian named Zek. I checked the scanner logs. 3 different pirate ships did sensor sweeps on us. All 3 detected your biosignature and left immediately. Chris looked uncomfortable. I don't like that. I don't want people to be afraid of me. They're not afraid of you, Tess said gently. They're afraid of what you represent. The idea that humans will fight back. That's not a bad thing. It feels bad, Chris said. I'm just a person. I'm not special. Zek made a clicking sound of amusement. Chris, you once carried a cargo container that takes 3 of us to lift. You repaired a hull breach and vacuum for 20 minutes before we realized your suit was leaking. You think those things are normal? They are normal, Chris protested. For humans. Exactly, Tess said. And that's why pirates avoid us now. Because what's normal for you is extraordinary for everyone else. The celebration continued, but Chris excused himself early. He went to his cabin and sat alone, thinking about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that saw his species as dangerous. He pulled up the video of Jake Morris. He had watched it dozens of times, trying to understand what made it so frightening to other species. To him, it just looked like a guy using available resources to solve a problem, improvisation, creativity, basic survival instinct. But he was starting to understand how others saw it. They saw efficiency, ruthlessness, a being that could switch from peaceful to violent in seconds and back again. They saw something their evolution hadn't prepared them for. Chris sent a message to Jake Morris. He had never met the man, but he felt a connection. They were both ordinary humans dealing with extraordinary circumstances. Hi Jake, the message read. My name is Chris Baker. I'm a navigator on the Golden Horizon. I wanted to thank you. Because of what you did 2 years ago, I have a job I love on a ship with a crew that respects me. Piracy has dropped in our sector by 70%. Lives have been saved. I know you didn't ask for this, and I know the attention has been hard. But you made a difference. You made the galaxy a little bit safer. Thank you. Jake received the message 3 days later. He read it twice, then filed it away with the hundreds of other messages he had received over the past 2 years. He never responded to them. He didn't know what to say, but that night he allowed himself a small smile. Maybe Chris was right. Maybe he had made a difference. On Earth, the government had finally established a formal spacer program. Humans who wanted to work in space could go through training and certification. The program taught safety procedures, cultural sensitivity, and yes, self-defense. We're not training soldiers, the program director explained in an interview. We're training ambassadors. Humans who can represent our species well and handle themselves in difficult situations. The interview showed clips from the training. Humans learning about different alien species, their cultures, their physiologies, their communication styles. It also showed combat training, but the focus was on de-escalation and defense, not aggression. We want the galaxy to know that humans are more than our reputation, the director said. We're artists, scientists, engineers, friends. Yes, we can be dangerous when threatened. But we prefer cooperation to conflict. We want to build relationships, not fear. The message was spreading. Slowly, the fear was being replaced by understanding. Other species were learning that humans were complex beings with diverse personalities and skills, but the warning remained. Ships still advertised their human crew members. Insurance companies still offered reduced rates. Pirates still checked manifests carefully before attacking the legend of Jake. Morris had become something larger than the man himself. It had become a symbol, a reminder that danger could come from unexpected places, that ordinary people could do extraordinary things when protecting those they cared about. 3 years after the incident, a young Zilarian merchant captain named Nix was hiring crew for his ship. He had been one of the first to hire a human after Jake's story broke. Now his ship, the Stardancer, had 3 human crew members and was one of the most profitable merchants in the sector. Nix gave an interview to the Galactic Trade Journal about his success. The secret is simple, he said. Humans are hard workers and loyal friends. The pirate deterrent is just a bonus. My human crew members have saved us money through efficient repairs, creative problem solving, and yes, the fact that pirates avoid us. But more than that, they've made our crew stronger. They have ideas we never would have thought of. They approach problems from different angles. They're valuable because they're human, not in spite of it. The interview went viral. Job applications from humans tripled. More shipping companies started actively recruiting from Earth. The human population in space grew from thousands to tens of thousands. And everywhere humans went, they brought their culture, their music, their stories, their humor. They formed friendships with other species. They fell in love, started families, built lives far from their home planet. The galaxy was learning that humans were more than their reputation. But the reputation still served a purpose. On a pirate ship in the deep frontier, Captain Vissa was planning her retirement. She had been raiding for 20 years, but the business had changed too much. Too many ships had humans now. Too many risks. The profit margins were shrinking. She called her crew together for one final meeting. I'm disbanding the crew, she announced. We've had a good run, but the galaxy is different now. Humans have changed the equation. It's not worth it anymore.